harsh on himself. I believe a great performance, and learn a lot from that fight. Questions to the floor, gentlemen.
Your hands are going to be hurting for some time to come, Cal, I think, on after that. So.
Yeah, I think I've just got to get used to it now.
Yeah.
Just one of them things. You know, after my last.
Yeah, need I say more?
after my last fight, they were killing me, and it's just becoming a regular thing. So it's got to deal with it.
Yeah. Very tough. Everything you expected from the challenger, perhaps? Or?
Yeah. After when I first put him down, was that second round?
Yeah.
I thought this might not last that long, but yeah, I just took my time. But then he just soaked it all up. Then once my left hand was gone, I just had to get through it really.
Of course.
He kept coming, and I just had to keep him up. He weren't the most strongest fighter I've boxed. Never had that much power or nothing, but he was just annoying.
Yeah.
Just in my face.
Yeah.
But,
is that what you was expecting from him, Eddie, perhaps? Or?
Yeah, I mean, Scott Quigg was sitting next to me, and he boxed a guy called Hidenori Ataki a couple of years ago in Liverpool. Exactly the same thing. Quigg hit him with absolutely everything. And down in that division, you have to look at the other fights that are being contested for World Championship at super flyweight. They're all extremely tough, extremely tough. You often see these fights going into the late rounds, 12 rounds, and I think it's just going to, he found it when he won the world title. He hit him with a kitchen sink as well, and he's a big puncher.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be probably a few more 12 rounders to come in the career.
Yeah. Do you feel that's done you the power of good, Cal? You know, that sort of contended to your status as it was. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Before I got him out of there in the second round, it would have been a nice touch, and knocking someone out in my homecoming. But I learned a lot from that. Another 12 rounds in the bank against a tough opponent, and I'll learn loads from it.
He hasn't had many world-class opponents outside of, because in the division you go from one extreme to the other. You go from you sort of better than journeymans to domestic level, and then you leap to the world level like he did against Conception. So although he would have liked to have knocked him out, it's good to mix in that company and get the rounds in against a quality fighter.
Yeah, of course. Coach, your thoughts as well? Happy?
Yeah, I'm happy he got the 12 rounds in, bring him on that well. But at that level they're all tough, aren't they? Can't blow him away. So I think it's a plus really, he's got the 12 rounds in. Step him on to the next level.
Okay, Eddie, you spoke in the ring after about Gonzalez as well, and that I think that he's lost his status a little bit, isn't he? But that's still a very attractive fight with or without belts for him, isn't it?
So name in the division, and we're not in any territory much. Like I say, it's 22-0 now. 22-0. So, but again,
he's lost count.
A couple of fights only at that world level. So we want some contenders coming through. I mean, even the likes we talked last week, because he wants to fight, is someone like Charlie Edwards, who's British champion, who again he wants a couple of fights. Defending his belt, and then he wants to move on and challenge for a second world title. That could be a decent fight for Cal, but I think he's got his sights on. He feels differently, but he's got his sights on as well, those big names. But we'll get there. We'll get there very quickly, because I think that's the natural progression when you're a world champion in the division.
Yeah, exciting times ahead, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's unlucky that he's a super flyweight. But he's lucky that he's a super flyweight, because he could be a super flyweight in a dull division, which is a real tough spot to be, but actually he's a super flyweight in an electric division with some big household names. So the big fights and big paydays are out there, and you'll get them.
Of course.
How was their hand trouble being from the amateur days?
I had a couple of operations when I was amateur, but obviously the gloves are a lot different. They're a lot smaller now, so it's just one of them things. I've got brittle hands. Punch a bit, so.
Is there nothing you can do now to kind of solve it? Have you spoken to anybody about it? Or?
Nothing really you can do, so just get on with it.
It doesn't stop you from.
No, I just didn't. I was throwing punches for 12 rounds. I feel like I threw a lot of punches. I don't know. Do you reckon? I threw a lot of punches?
Yeah, so did it.
Yeah, so did it.
And you landed. Probably landed. I don't know the percentage, but a lot.
Yeah, so I'll just keep throwing, just get on with it now. I'm getting that experience under me now. I'm 22 fights in, and I'm just getting that experience where you just get on with it. You just got to keep throwing punches no matter what.
Is the Gonzalez fight the one that you definitely want next, or is it anybody who's got belts?
He's the biggest name, so he's the one that you got to chase, really. He's the biggest name, and does he bring the biggest?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And that's a fight that could take place. Yeah, that's a fight that could take place in the States as well. You know, and Kal wouldn't mind fighting in the States. We've already talked to Jerwin Enkarjas' team. He's the IBF champion, and we're in talks also with the WBC champion who beat Gonzalez. Although they're going to rematch, they want us to help him out. But I think the IBF champ, I'd like to see one more fight and then unify. And I believe he can beat some of those champions as well now. And I believe he can beat all of them in time. But Gonzalez is the standout name.
Kal, do you think Gonzalez is on the slide? Do you think that fight was a bit of an anomaly, or do you think he's coming to the end of that sort of long run?
No, I thought he won the last fight. I thought it was a close fight, and I thought he nicked it. But you know, maybe he's not what everyone thinks he is at Superfly. Maybe he's not big enough and strong enough. You know, only time will tell. Gets him with me. Obviously, I'm a big, strong Superfly, so we'll see how he deals with that.
He's got a big profile in America, obviously, being on HBO and stuff. Do you ones as well over there, beating him?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'd travel to America, no problem.
Did you box there at all as an amateur?
Pardon?
Did you box in America?
Yeah. 3 times.
You win them?
Yeah.
Even if he didn't, he wouldn't have told you.
He's a journalist, and he do your research.
Rob probably knows anyway. Here we go.
No, that was the only one.
Yeah.
That was the only one. I went on a tour with GB, and I boxed 3, and then the return when they come here, and the dinner show in London.
Eddie, with the fight, the only few rounds before Kal was going to see him off pretty quick. You know, the guy offered a lot of resistance. Do you think that showed his world-class level? Like the mentality, you know, stay calm and just...
yeah, and very accurate. I mean, he was under pressure. Kal won every round, virtually. And he was under pressure every round. So you have to give the Muranaka a lot of credit. Because I knew it'd be tough, but I didn't think it'd be that tough.
Yeah.
But I thought Kal's composure was excellent. Got ragged a couple of times, got caught a couple of times. But sometimes against opponents like that, it's the only way you're going to knock them out, is trading with them. And he was starting to tire a little bit towards the end, Muranaka, but he was just, in the end, it was just like leave him alone, let him do his thing, you know. And I think Kal realised that after probably 8 or 9 rounds. It's like, well, maybe just slow down a little bit here and just, you know, this is probably going to go 12. But all part of the learning process. He hasn't really boxed anyone like that before. Conception was a lot trickier than Muranaka. Muranaka was just straight up and down, just relentless pressure.
Does he plan on making his second defence at the Barclaycard Arena again?
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, you know, you have the option, really, Kal has the option to box in Birmingham and box on pay-per-view cards as well. Yeah. So, you know, I think, looking at his hands, he's going to have the rest of May off and June, and then probably get back in to training in, you know, July and look to box end of September, something like that, or middle of September. I'd like him to box twice this year, really, but obviously hands permitting.
Okay, so did you watch River before the fight?
No, just getting my hand dropped. So I'll be at home. When I get home, I'll have to watch it. I'll try and catch it on YouTube if someone uploads it. If anyone's watching, you can upload it or give me a shout on Twitter. I'll watch it.
Did he tell you he was good?
But everyone talk. But what I did, I was sitting there. I just finished getting my hand wrapped, and I just went on Twitter and just see what everyone was saying. So
great performance, really good fight.
From what I read, it was a good performance. So yeah, very happy.
Brings it on nicely to the rest of the card as well. I mean, Davis was game as well, didn't he? He was only going out one way, wasn't it? So
deserves a lot of credit, you know. And I think again, Max put a great game plan together for Gamal because he kept nice and calm under the pressure. And actually, in the end, after the first couple of rounds, he started getting into it. I think he decided I'm too strong for him. Started to unload on him, and that's when it showed. But
yeah,
it's a lot of pressure on that fight because everyone expected him to win, but there was a lot of support for Sean Davis as well. So although it was the Battle of Brum, you know, Gamal is expected to go well beyond those levels, but you still have to overcome those hurdles. But I'd like to see him move on, challenge for British and European titles this year.
Of course.
I think Gamal's really coming on.
Yeah. Can you see Gamal maybe reaching the ascension that this gentleman here has done, you know, his brother and so on?
I believe Gamal can go and win world titles. I mean, you know, you've got to look at guys like you know, Hugo Ruiz, who Gavin McDonnell boxed for the WBC world title. I wouldn't, you know, I know Gamal's not ready for that fight, but I wouldn't be adverse to sling him in that kind of fight soon, because you know he can punch and he's very strong and he's technically improving all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you talk about he's got another year before he fights for world titles, but let's get British and European first. But he's really improving, really improving, and very entertaining to watch as well.
Of course, and we talk about stoppages as well. Sam Eggington is a new European champion, so but for a little while it was very nervous how that fight ended, wasn't it? So
I had him 3 or 4 rounds up. I don't know, but Sky had him 1 round up, and the scores were 3 rounds up, 5 rounds up, 5 rounds up for Eggington. I don't know. I thought it was like 3 or 4 rounds up watching it, but it was a brutal knockout. It was one of the worst knockouts I've seen.
Yeah.
It was bad.
I've been through it 3 when I get out.
It was bad.
Yeah.
He knocked him out standing up, and then hit him with a right.
He was out, sat on the ropes.
Yeah, right hand, left hook, whilst he was unconscious.
I like that one.
You always worry about those things, though, don't you? You know, no one likes to see.
Well. It was a very bad knockout, and it took him a while to regain consciousness, but thankfully he was all right. And Sam Eggington's story rolls on. Good night for Birmingham.
We all go into our families, and obviously, is Sam ready for knocking on the door for it? Got to be now, world titles.
You know, a defence of the European, maybe 1 or 2, and then you get to a stage where there's the point of no return. You've got to go and change for world titles. It's like Kal was. You know, he did his apprenticeship, change for a world title, and then the same thing will happen. Defend the world title a couple of times, unify. That's what happens, and it's up to the fighter if they can keep raising their levels and improving.
Can you see Sam doing that? Can you see this Rocky story just going to the top of the?
23, he's improving as well. You know, talk about Gamal improving. So is Sam Eggington. Now he just used to be a guy who just used to come in and have a tear up. Now he's boxed 3 back-to-back technically strong boxers: Rodriguez, Eggington, Gavin, and Malinaji. They're all the wrong style for him. Do you know what I mean? But he's overcome them. So he's 23. He's only a baby as well.
Yeah, and obviously just briefly touch on Frankie as well. With his homecoming tonight and so on.
Yeah, look, I mean Frankie's Frankie, isn't he? I mean,
yeah.
Like,
we've all fell in love with Garrido, though, I think, haven't we? So.
The thing is with Frankie is how many times do you want to say I'm gonna do this next time, or I'm gonna be 10 stone 4 next time? It's all very well saying, oh, he's got so much talent, he's not fulfilled his ability and this and that, but he's 31 years old. You know, he needs to decide what he wants to do in his life, and it might be too late to take it as seriously as he should have previously when he had the opportunities. But you know, listen, he's a good kid at heart, but he makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to be slung in a monster fight, and if he can take himself seriously, he's got ability. If he can't, it'll be the end of the road for him.
Can he correct that? Can he correct that with his head on?
Only an answer that he can give you.
Okay,
All right.
fair enough. So.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Cheers.
Brilliant, thank you. Cheers, Eddie.